At my job, my own sister dumped hot coffee on me. Everyone thought it was funny. But then, my billionaire husband showed up. In just minutes, he fired the whole room. And that was only the start. It was a company lunch, ordinary until my own sister, decided to pour a steaming hot coffee right into my lap. Everyone laughed. No one helped. Just when I thought I'd finally, completely disappeared, my husband walked in. Not just any husband, but a billionaire. And in minutes, he fired everyone in that room. But honestly, the true gut punch began long before that coffee ever touched my skin. What if your family spent years subtly, expertly, erasing every trace of you? Would you even see it coming? Let me tell you what really happened. So, there I was, standing in the sleek, cold lobby of Monroe Analytics. One hand was aching, gripping a tray of coffees, the other balancing breakfast wraps already staining through the bag. The damp Seattle morning chill followed me in, but it was nothing compared to the chill inside. Marketing people breezed past, not even a nod. Then there was Nick, an intern who barely looked up from his phone. "Hey, he mumbled, "you mind grabbing a couple extra creamers next time?" No smile, no thanks. Just expected. What was I supposed to do? Tell him I had an MBA from UCLA? That I wrote the predictive sales model his team was using this quarter? That I wasn't the damn office barista? Instead, I just gave him a tight, little smile and said, "Sure thing." By the time I hit the second floor, my arm was throbbing. The coffee heat was bleeding through my blouse. I stopped for a second, just to shift the tray, and my eyes landed on it, the giant, framed poster. Mara's face. My sister. Meet the visionary behind Monroe Analytics. The caption glowed. There she was, that same subtle, fake casual smile. The one she used to tell our parents I was too sensitive. The one she flashed at board members while taking credit for work she never did. It was a masterpiece of illusion. I was already late, but it didn't matter. The boardroom was packed, Mara already mid-sentence, her presentation blinking on the giant screen. I placed her coffee, her breakfast, at her seat. She didn't look up. Didn't acknowledge me. Just kept talking. "If we're serious about Q3 growth," she declared, "we need disruption." My cue. I'd spent the entire weekend building a predictive model for regional purchasing behavior. It was groundbreaking. Not just good, it was the thing that could shift sales patterns. I cleared my throat, actually, she cut me off, hand raised. "Let's save the math class for later, T. We're not running a school here." Laughter. Easy, comfortable laughter from people who never once bothered to ask what I actually did all day. I sank into my chair. Then Thomas, a VP, asked, "What's Tersa's role again?" Mara didn't miss a beat. "Oh, she's sort of a floating support, a utility player." She's helpful. Helpful. That word felt like a splinter lodged in my throat. I looked around the table, desperate for someone, anyone, to meet my eye. Nothing. Just averted gazes or blank stares, as if I was part of the expensive furniture. So I pulled out my notebook, the one no one ever asked to read, and pretended to take notes, while inside, a part of me quietly shattered. After the meeting, I collected the empty cups unasked. The room emptied fast. As I was leaving, I felt eyes on me. Lucian Draper, head of legal, a quiet man who watched everything. Our eyes met. For a second, I thought he'd speak, acknowledge what he'd seen. But he just gave one, almost imperceptible nod and walked away. My inner voice hissed, of course he didn't. Silence is safe. Silence keeps jobs. That afternoon, in the elevator, Mallory, the sharp, ambitious fast riser, slid in next to me. She leaned in. "Hey, I hope you don't mind, but Mara asked me to present your deck next week. She said you'd be cool with it." Cool with it? My mind screamed. Outwardly, I just blinked. "Sure," I said, my voice unnervingly even. "No problem." She smiled. "Thanks. I mean, you laid all the groundwork. I'll just polish it up a bit." We rode down in silence. Later, I stayed late. The office was quiet, save for the hum of neglected HVAC. I sat there, staring at my own name, tucked into the corner of my slide deck. How long, I wondered, until even I forgot I was the one who made it. They didn't need to fire me to erase me. They just stopped seeing me. The next morning, I arrived early, hoping for a moment of peace before the chipping away started again. The office was still mostly quiet. I walked towards the lunchroom and saw a cluster of interns, huddled, whispering, trying not to laugh. They scattered the second they saw me. No greetings. No guilt. I grabbed a water. Just then, Joanna from accounting materialized beside me, her voice a low whisper. "I'm not supposed to show you this," she said, holding her phone screen low. "But you deserve to know." On the screen, a forwarded email chain, barely readable. But the image? Crystal clear. Me, wiping down a whiteboard. The caption, "When nepotism comes with a mop." The subject line, "Queen bee with no hive." A reply, "At least she's good at cleaning up Mara's messes." Joanna looked at me, apologetic. "I didn't laugh," she whispered. I just nodded, said nothing, and left. Back at my desk, I stared out at the heavy, Seattle clouds. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. I just sat with the weight of it, letting it settle, deep and invisible, where it always did. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. I wasn't just overlooked. I was a punchline. That afternoon, the monthly recognition meeting began. Bagels, balloons, a PowerPoint loop. I knew I wouldn't be on it, but I wasn't ready for this. The slideshow clicked through faces. Then, the Data Innovation Award. That burned, because it was mine. My model, my work, highlighted. But under recognition? Mullery pen. My name? Nowhere. Not a whisper. Mara, perfectly poised, announced, "Our young talent is what pushes us forward," gesturing proudly at Mullery. The applause was deafening, drowning out the ringing in my ears. Lucian caught my eye again. This time, he didn't look away. But he didn't speak. Later, I stumbled to the vending machine, just needing to step away. I tried to feed it a wrinkled dollar. It spat it back. I flattened it, tried again. It swallowed the bill, blinked twice, then froze. Just nothing. It was such a small, stupid thing. But it was the straw. My hand shook, not from the machine, but from everything. "You don't break from the big blows," I whispered to myself. "It's the small cuts." The echo of your own name erased. Back at my desk, under the dull, late daylight, I found a folder on my chair. No note. I opened it. My latest presentation. Every slide, every chart, exactly as I'd made it. Except for one thing. Mallory's watermark. On every single page. My name? Vanished. I didn't blink. Not anymore. I checked the printer. Printed that afternoon, just hours before the recognition meeting. I sat down, opened an email draft. Subject, documentation. Attachment, a scanned copy of the folder. Body, blank. I hit send. To myself. They thought I was quiet because I didn't know how to fight. They didn't know I had just started. I left the empty office, the echo of my heels a shadow learning to speak. Days later, an investor, Bennett, came to visit. Mara met him, and right behind her, my mother. Keegan. The matriarch. She swept him in, gleaming, proclaiming, "This is Mara, my daughter, the brain behind all of this." I was standing 3 feet away. 3 feet. She didn't introduce me. Didn't even acknowledge my presence. Bennett, politely confused, turned to me. "And you are?" "Oh," I smiled, a little too brightly. "I'm the one who wipes down the whiteboard." He gave a confused chuckle, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. That night, dinner at some high-end seafood place. My mother bragged about Mara's debate trophies, her early Stanford admission, conveniently forgetting she transferred after 2 semesters. She never mentioned my full ride to UCLA, my early graduation, my national conference presentation before 30. She spoke of Mara as if I was her only daughter. I picked at my food, watching Mara dazzle. Somewhere between the lobster bisque and the seared halibut, a stark truth hit me. There comes a moment when your silence doesn't protect them anymore. It only exposes you. A few days later, dropping off a file in Mara's office, her door ajar, I heard my mother's voice. Clipped. Impatient. "You need to transition her out, Mara. Sooner, not later. People are starting to ask questions." Mara exhaled. "She's not going anywhere." That's the problem. She's too close. You know how this works. Keep her in the room, but far from the table. My mother's reply was sharp. I've been doing that for 6 months. Mara snapped, she's just quiet. She doesn't fight. She never has. I stood there, still as air. Quiet, but not empty. I gently placed the file on a side table and stepped back out. My heart wasn't racing. My hands weren't shaking. I wasn't even angry. I felt awake. Back at my desk, I opened a new email. Subject, documentation. Sidhu. Attachment, an audio recording from my phone, still running in my coat pocket. I hit send. That night, I sat on my apartment floor, tea going cold. I pulled out a shoebox of old family photos. One of me at 10, beaming, holding a science fair ribbon. In the background, Mara, arms crossed, not smiling. I used to think I was invisible because I wasn't good enough. But it wasn't my value that was lacking. It was my refusal to shrink to fit their image of what enough looked like. That was the night I created a new folder, contingency plan. Because if they were coming for me, I wasn't just going to sit there. I'd been underestimated for too long. And if they thought I wouldn't fight back, they hadn't been watching closely enough. The next morning, I walked into the office, but everything in me had shifted. I wasn't there to survive. I was there to reclaim who I was before they rewrote me. I checked my voicemails, something I hadn't done in weeks. Second message, a warm, professional voice from Eastbrook Data. Hi, Ms. Monroe. We met at the Boston Tech Summit. Our director of strategy is moving to Europe, and we'd love to talk to you about stepping into that role. Your work with consumer behavioral modeling is exactly what we need. The date on the message? 5 weeks ago. Boston. Director level. Real recognition. A real offer. And I had ignored it. Why? Because 6 weeks ago, Mara had looked me dead in the eye and pleaded, I can't save this company without you, T. I trust you more than anyone. I thought I was helping my sister. Turns out, I was just hammering nails into my own coffin. Later that afternoon, quarterly strategy meeting. The presentation, predictive models for consumer pulse. Mine. My code, my project, my sweat. My charts, my formulas, my structure repackaged, given a shiny new title. Mallory, looking sharp, walked to the front. I'm proud to present a predictive framework we've been building. We? Mallory didn't even know logistic from linear regression until I explained it last month. Mara stood at the back, nodding, proud. Exactly what I envisioned, she announced, when I hired fresh minds to shake things up. Fresh minds. I sat frozen, every cell screaming, but my face remained calm. When the meeting ended, an automated email popped up. Thank you, Tersa. Great note-taking today. Your support makes everything run smoother. Support. I walked back to my desk, shut my laptop. Then I opened a hidden folder. The original deck. My name on every page. My notes. Time-stamped edits. Undeniable. I dragged the entire folder into my contingency plan, Phase 2 directory, and backed it up in 3 more places. That night, I didn't take the bus. I walked. I remembered a name Dorian had once mentioned, an intellectual property lawyer. I found her email. Attached the full folder. Subject: Intellectual property theft. Internal evidence attached. I hit send. I didn't sleep much, but I wasn't restless. I was done waiting for someone else to call it what it was. This time, I was sending the signal. And someone was going to answer. The next morning, I was in the conference room early. Of course, my name wasn't on the agenda. Mallory had a full section. Junior staffers were at the main table. I just pulled out my phone, voice recorder on, and set it face down. The presentation was bloated, recycled metrics. When an intern mangled data I'd built, no one corrected her. Mara, all smiles, wrapped it up. These are the future of Monroe Analytics. Fresh eyes see things we often miss. Fresh eyes like mine were cataracts. The meeting dragged. As I reached for my bag, a new email pinged. Sent to a small group, I was accidentally included. Subject: Thursday debrief. Internal only. First line: honestly, she's just good for coffee runs and filling out the diversity line item. Another reply: She still thinks she's in the running for VP. Adorable. And another, we should frame that mop picture or name a conference room after her. No reaction. Not outwardly. I forwarded it to my secure email. Subject, documentation, server 3. Then I walked calmly out. Mara was by the coffee station, charming Bennett. She saw me. Tea, she chirped. Don't forget to restock the sugar packets. I think we're low again. I stepped closer, steady and quiet. If you push again, I said, I'll push back. Not like before. Not silently. Her practiced smile flickered. A tiny, almost imperceptible pause before she said, Oh, come on, sis. Lighten up. It's just work. That hesitation. That's all I needed. Back at my desk, I printed last week's slides, the ones with Mallory's bad data. Clipped a note, no accusations, just corrections. Placed it in Lucian's mail slot. An hour later, he walked past my desk. Didn't say a word. Just slipped a folded paper into my tote bag. It was the email chain. The one I'd just received. But it wasn't from me. Someone else had flagged it. Someone inside. I traced the words. They didn't burn. Not anymore. The hallway hummed with Friday energy, but there was a new tension in the air. A pause. A breath held. Because when truth lingers too long in silence, even the liars start looking over their shoulders. The next time I saw Mara, it was the Friday investor luncheon. Everything staged, of course. I was by the window pouring coffee when Mara swept in, perfectly timed, perfectly dressed, 2 lattes in hand. Her eyes found mine, that familiar glint. She walked toward me, smiling like it meant something, then, at the very last second, tripped. The coffee arced, steaming, then landed squarely in my lap. The heat punched through my slacks before the pain even registered. Oh no, she gasped, voice saccharine. Tirsa, I'm so sorry. Still your favorite, right? People laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Some looked away. A few looked like they wanted to speak, but didn't. My skin was burning. But I didn't shout. I didn't flinch. I looked her dead in the eye, smiled just enough to confuse her, and walked out. Slowly. Upright. Coffee soaking through every step. In the restroom, locked in a stall, I leaned against the cold metal, my hand pressed to the scarlet stains spreading on my thigh. This wasn't clumsy. This wasn't accidental. This was her final warning. But what she didn't know, it was also mine. I changed, returned to my desk. A new email. Congratulations, Mallory. Bold type. She was the new director of data operations. My position. The department I'd outlined. The workflow I'd designed. Handed over like a party favor. I didn't feel betrayed anymore. I felt confirmed. This wasn't neglect. It was strategy. And I'd played right into it. Until now. I opened my encrypted folder. Uploaded security footage. Mara's trajectory, her smirk just before impact. Crystal clear. Then, the mentorship logs, every correction I'd made to Mallory's data, every presentation I'd prepped. Dates, signatures, even her notes in my handwriting. The folder name, Public Disclosure, Stage 1. In my journal, I wrote one sentence. They gave me coffee. I'll give them fire. Later, Lucian stood at my door, expression unreadable. He didn't speak, just placed a brown envelope on my desk and left. Inside, an HR complaint form, signed, anonymous. The wording, hostile incident in a public professional setting. It was the coffee. Filed under review. I leaned back, exhaling slowly. Eyes were watching now. Quietly. Regretfully. Not everyone was brave enough to speak, but not everyone was blind anymore either. And if they wanted a show, they were about to get one they couldn't delete. Monday morning, an email hit every inbox. Subject, Leadership in Sync. Meet the Monroe Women. A glossy press release. A photo of Mara and me, smiling side by side. Except that photo was from a year ago. Cropped. Filtered. Altered. A legacy of trust, vision, and sisterhood, the caption read. Mara was quoted, "My sister and I have always believed in building this together." I wanted to scream. Or laugh. Instead, I printed it. 2 hours later, Marcus, a client, pinged me. He'd received a proposal for a new data analysis initiative. His message, "Hey, didn't you mention this structure last quarter?" I opened the attachment, my structure, my analysis, my predictive grid. Word for word. Only Mara and Mallory's names were on it. But buried in the metadata? My watermark. Dated. Logged. Unmistakable. They weren't just trying to erase me. They were replacing me in real time. That afternoon, the quarterly town hall. Mara, sharp blazer, sharper smile, on stage, talking family legacy. I sat in the back row, perfectly still. I didn't interrupt. I didn't raise my voice. I waited for the Q&A. When the floor opened, I stood up. Calm. Steady. "Mara," I said, "can you clarify when exactly you and I last co-authored a project together?" The air itself shifted. A mic handler hesitated. Someone coughed. Mara's smile tightened, barely. "Tirsa, I'm not sure that's relevant to today's discussion." "No," I tilted my head. "Because it's relevant to the article you published this morning. And it's certainly relevant to the client proposal sent to Denver yesterday." Silence. Then a junior staffer, "Didn't Tirsa design Project Cora?" Another voice, "Yeah, the predictive grid was hers. We beta tested it in October." Then Lucian, quiet but firm, rose. "I can confirm the time-stamped files. The source material is Salmon Rose." No one laughed. No one looked away. I looked around the room. I didn't need to shout. I didn't need to plead. She built a family of mirrors. I lit one match. And just like that, the silence that once protected her was about to testify against her. After the town hall, people cleared out fast. Silence isn't neutral. It just waits to see who'll win. As I cleared my dishes, the elevator dinged. Then again. 2 men in dark suits. Then Dorian. Not the Dorian from home. This was Dorian Wexler. Fitted black suit, no tie, eyes focused. The air around him shifted. Mara emerged from her office, her practiced grin faltering. "Dorian," she started, "we weren't expecting." He cut her off. Quietly. "Let's make this brief." The boardroom doors swung open. I followed. I knew what was coming. Mara sat at the head. Dorian placed a manila folder in front of her. Then one for Lucian. "Transfer of controlling interest," he stated. "Effective immediately, Monroe Analytics now belongs majority to Wexler Holdings. A quiet acquisition, by design." Mara's face didn't fall. It froze. "This is a joke." Dorian stood still. "No. What's been happening here for the last year? That's the joke. I'm here to end it." She gave a sharp laugh. "You bought us out? This is your revenge for me defending this place." He didn't flinch. "You defended a lie. You curated a brand. You erased people." He turned to Lucian. "I'll be appointing interim compliance and ethics leadership, starting with a full audit." Lucian gave a single, solid nod. Dorian looked to me. I reached into my bag, pulled out a USB, walked to the screen. One click. First slide, the diversity decor email. Next, the client proposal with Mallory's name over my model. Then, security footage of Mara's intentional coffee spill. Finally, a single slide, bold text, "If silence protects the abuser, let noise redeem the truth." No music. No voiceover. Just truth. Laid bare. Mallory buried her face in her hands. Lucian looked at Mara. "Do you have anything to say?" She blinked. "This is a hit job." "It's a correction," I said. Dorian stood. "Effective immediately, Mara Keegan is removed from her role. Your contract is terminated, pending legal review." Her voice cracked. "You're doing this now, here in front of her?" Dorian didn't even look at me. "You did it to yourself. You just didn't expect anyone to say so out loud." Mara turned to our mother, who sat at the far end of the table. Mom didn't speak. Didn't move. She just stared out the window, as if neither of us existed. The room emptied. One by one. I stayed. I wasn't done. I had one last thing to say. I waited until the last door clicked shut, the only sound the projector cooling. I took out my USB. I didn't need to say more, but I did. I walked to the window where Mara still stood, unmoved. Her reflection was sharper than her presence. I stood close enough for her to hear me. You once said I was too soft to survive this world, I said, calm, not bitter. Turns out, I was just quiet enough to outlast it. She blinked slowly. You look more like your father these days. I nodded. He always said truth doesn't need a microphone. No apology came. I wasn't waiting for one. Later that week, I was back. The lobby looked the same, but the energy? Lighter. Mara's nameplate was gone. Mallory had resigned. I walked past the front desk. A new framed poster hung there. A quote. Mine. Silence gave me strength, but truth gave me my voice. The receptionist smiled, genuinely. That afternoon, Lucian and the new HR head joined me. We finalized the company's first formal code of ethical collaboration. Policies on author credit, project oversight, whistleblower protection. Naming the gaslighting, the sabotage, the performative allyship. Lucian signed. This wouldn't exist without you, he said. It shouldn't have needed me, I replied. But it does now. The next morning, an email. I owe you an apology, Mallory Penn. I opened it. She admitted she knew, that she let it happen, that she told herself she was just trying to survive. I archived it. Didn't delete it. Weeks later, my mother showed up. Walked through the halls, saying hello to people she didn't recognize. Didn't ask for a tour. Didn't mention Mara. She just stood by my office window. I came to see it, she said. The place that changed everything. I poured her tea. Black, no sugar. You run this now, she said. I lead it, I corrected. She nodded. It's cleaner. Sharper. We didn't talk about it. She made her choices. I made mine. As she left, she paused. You never needed fixing, she said. Just space. That night, I closed my laptop. The new partnership paperwork was finalized. Monroe Analytics would sponsor leadership scholarships for women of color in data science and engineering. For students. Bright. Sharp. Quiet, but not invisible. As I turned off the lights, there was no applause. No spotlight. Just a soft stillness, like a code I'd sewn for myself, stitch by careful stitch. Some called it revenge. But I never needed them to fall. I just needed room to rise. I used to think being quiet was weakness, that staying calm meant giving up. But I've learned that chosen silence can be a profound power. Sometimes, the strongest move you can make is to stand your ground, without ever raising your voice. If you're watching this, and you've ever felt invisible, at work, in your family, in your own story, know this. You are not alone. And you are not powerless. I didn't get here by luck. I got here by paying attention, by keeping records, by listening when no one else would, by refusing to become like the very people who tried to erase me. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't have to destroy anyone to reclaim yourself. You just have to stop shrinking. So, I want to ask you, have you ever been in a room full of people and still felt completely unseen? How did you find your way back? Or are you still trying? Tell me your thoughts. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, even a little, let me know. And if you want more stories like this, raw, real, and full of the quiet power so many of us carry, then make sure you stick around. You won't want to miss the next voice that finally gets to be heard.